Hey everyone, and welcome back to the series on Python. In the last session, we studied about while loops. In today's session, we are going to take a look at for loops. So let's get started. So first of all, let's see what for loops are. With the help of for loops, we can iterate over a sequence of values like strings, lists, etc. Now, if you don't understand sequence right now, you will understand it in a future sessions, like sessions on strings, tuples, etc. So don't worry about it. For now, just understand we can use for loops to loop over or iterate over a group of things, like a group of characters, a sequence of characters. For example, let's say we have a sequence of characters here saying H E L L O. So this is a string, as you already know, and this is also we can also call string as a sequence of characters. So using for loop, we can basically iterate over this. And what do I mean by iterating over this? So you will see in a second. Just hold on a little bit. Basically, iteration means to take each character one by one in the loop. I will show you. Don't worry about it. Now, the second point is it is also known as counting loop. Why? Because we can also do some counting stuff with it. We can also perform some counting related things using for loop. Now, let's take a look at the syntax of for loop. So, you can see we have for and then variable in which we want to store the value of the sequence. So, let me just actually write hello again, HELLO. So if we want to iterate over this string, that is, if we want to take each character of the string one by one, we have to first of all make a variable in the for loop. And in the first iteration or in the first go, the first character of the string will be stored in this variable. And if the first iteration is complete, that is, if the control of the program comes back in the loop, the next letter gets stored in this variable. So that's how it works. Now, after variable, we have to write in and then the sequence that we want to iterate over. So for variable in sequence, and now again, similarly, as similar to while loops, we can basically put the group of statements that we want to be executed. So now let me actually show this thing right in Ideally. So here I have opened up my rough file in Ideally, and let's experiment with the for loop. Let's first of all make a string. Let's say a is equal to hello. And now let's try to use the for loop with it. So the syntax was for variable in sequence. So for, and I have to create a variable here. Let's take the name of the variable I in, and now the sequence. So the sequence that we want to iterate over is stored in this variable a. So either we can just write hello like this, or in this case we are already having the variable for it, so we can just say a. Now let's say we want to print hi each time. Okay, so what this is doing is basically iterating over this string, and that means uh, it is taking each character, for example h in the first place, and storing it in the variable I, and for that it is printing hi here. We can also do some other things within the loop, but for now it's just printing hi. And now the first iteration is complete. In the next iteration or in the next round, it is taking e. Okay, it is taking e as the next value and storing it in I. Similarly, L and then L and then O. So basically, it is going to run this loop 5 times. HELLO, right? Because there are 5 characters. So it will run this loop 5 times for each character every time. And for each character it runs, it is going to print hi. So let's try to run this and let's see what we get. Yes, as we expected, high, 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 high. Basically, we got high 5 times. Now let's change something here. Let's get rid of high and let's try to print A. So what do you think will happen? I will recommend first of all pause the video and try to predict the output yourself. Now let's try to run this and see we got hello 5 times. This is because the value of A is hello, right? So the same thing happened. The for loop is running 5 times, each time with each of these characters in order. That is first for H, then E, then L, then L, and then O. So it ran 5 times and printed the value of A 5 times. That is hello 5 times. Now, now is the main interesting thing. Now, if I do this print I, try to pause the pause the video and try to think what will be the output. And if you can figure this out, basically you have learned the basics of for loop. Now let's try to run this. See, we got H E L L O. Now what happened here? So as I told you in the first time, that is using the for loop, we can iterate over a group of things or a sequence of things. So here we are iterating over a sequence of characters, that is a string, right? This is nothing but a string. Let me just add a comment there. Okay, so we are iterating over this string stored inside A. So now if I basically break this down, in the first iteration the value of I will be H, as I already told you. So when the value of I is H, we are going to print I. So what is the value of I that we will print? Obviously H, because the value of I is only H here. Now the first iteration is complete. The program, the control flow of the program comes back here, and the value of I becomes E this time. So again for E we are going to do print I, and now the value of I is E, so it will print E this time, and then L, then L, and then O. So basically, it is going to print H E L L O in separate lines, because let me just show something here. It's equivalent to saying print H, print E. Basically, this thing here is equivalent to saying something like this: print H, print E, print L, and then print O. This will also do the same thing. So if I run this, we should see HELLO 2 times, right? Because both of those snippets are doing the same thing. So again, let me just revise one more time for you. So first of all, for loops are used to basically iterate over sequence of characters or sequence of any other things, or we can say just simply sequence of values. So here we are iterating over the sequence of characters, that is a string. So we are iterating over this string stored in the variable a. Now, for variable in string or sequence, so basically what we are doing is we are taking this string as the value here, and we are iterating over it. So the first character will be stored inside of I the first time it runs the loop. So the first time it runs, I will have the value H, and now it will go and print the value of I here, because we are just running print I. So it will say H, and the next time the for loop runs, its value will be E, so it will print E. The next time it runs, its value will be L, so it will print L. Similarly, next time L, and then it will print L, and similarly the last value will be O, and so it will print O here, right? So that's how it works. That's why both of these things are same, or at least similar. Now let's say we want to basically iterate over some numbers, right? So let's say we want to iterate over a group of numbers from 1 to 10, let's say. So for that we can use a function here, and the function that we are going to use is range. And again, you will understand range function in detail when you would have studied lists and tuples, at least lists. So we are going to use range. And how will I use range? I'm just going to show this to you directly in ideally itself. So let me clear everything. Just a second. Now, let's say we want to use for loop with a group of numbers or a sequence of numbers. So for I again in. Now this time we are going to be taking a sequence of numbers. So let's say we want to iterate over 1 to 10. So what we can do is use the function range. And as you can see here, first of all we have to give the start value. So we want to start from 1, so we will say 1. And then we want to stop at 10, right? But the stop value is not included, so we have to uh, use stop plus 1. So we have to say 10 sorry 11 here, so that it runs 1 to 10. And now just to show this works, let me just print I again. So the first time it runs, its value should be 1, right? The next time its value should be 2, and similarly then 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 until 10. So let's try to run this and see what we get. Yes, as you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now you might be a little bit confused with this range function over here. And just to give a little glimpse of it, I'm just going to say to you that this function basically returns a list, or a list, not list actually, but an object that can be converted into a list. So it returns a range object of numbers, you can say, that you can iterate with, or that you can convert in list and use it. Don't worry, you will understand these things in future. For now, just keep in mind that you can use the range function to iterating over some numbers. And one more thing, you can add a step value as well. So the default step value is 1. If you don't add this, it will take 1 by default. And what do I mean by step value? Step value means how much uh, will I step, as I already discussed in the string session as well. So let me just show. It gave the same output because I just put the step value to be 1. Let me try to change this to 2, and now you will see the result. See, we are skipping one value. Basically, we are stepping the values by 2. That's what the step value means. 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. Okay. One more thing. If I change this to 11 and 1, and if I change this to -1, first of all, I will request please pause the video and try to predict the output yourself. Now let's run this and then I'll explain what happens here. See, we got 11 to 2. Now, why did this happen? So, this is the start value. So, we are going to start at 11. And this is the ending value. But the ending value is not included, right? So, and the ending value is 1. What? First of all, check this. The step value that I have added here is a negative. So negative step value means it will go in reverse. So if I have put the start value 11 and a step value of -1, it will basically step negatively. Okay. So if it is 11 now, it will go to 10 and then 9 and 8, then 8, etc. But the stop value is 1 here. And as you know, the stop value is not included. So it will go only till 2 and not 1, right? So that's why we got 11 to 2 here. So I hope it's clear to you. And if you have any doubt regarding for loops, you can uh, ask in the comments and I will definitely reply to that. Now you will learn more about for loops in future sessions when you have studied lists and tuples, as I already told you, because these topics are extremely connected with for loops. And I will conduct a special session or a specific session on for loops again after I have discussed lists and tuples. This was just a brief session of for loops. So this is it for this session of Python on for loops. I hope this was clear to you. And again, if you have any doubts, please feel free to ask in the comments below. So again, thanks for watching and I will see you next time. Goodbye.